Ratatouille. It's a peasant dish. Are you sure you want to serve this to Ego?
Do I think ratatouille is a peasant dish? No, not at all. I have served ratatouille in a fine dining in my restaurants all over the world, absolutely. I'm Chef Paul Liebrandt. I've been cooking for 25 years, and I was the chef owner of Michelin-starred restaurant Corton in New York City. Today, we're going to be watching fine dining cuisine scenes from TV and movies and judge how real they are.
Full board, okay? We need to drill, guys. Who's ready to party right now?
This is the opening night of the Bear restaurant. Opening nights are tough, huh? They're very, very tough. It's like going on a first date. You're not meeting you, you're meeting the representative of you. I think they captured it pretty well. The stress level, the energy, the sensibility, I suppose you could say, of the kitchen. The gentleman who was calling the tickets says a lot. Maybe more than you should on an opening night. It's opening nights, you want to calm everybody down a bit and focus because it's, everyone's a bit nervous.
Listen to the numbers, don't call back, just go. We're all gonna be smoking cigarettes soon.
Absolutely, we have a timer. Everybody has a timer. Timing in the kitchen is the one thing that we cannot get back. So when you come for a meal in a fine dining restaurant, and if you're doing multiple courses, a la tasting menu style, you don't want to be sitting at the table and having 45 minutes, hour gap between courses. You're going to leave. So the timing is critical for not just the flow of service, but for the timing of how the food is cooked, how the food's rested, timing of the temperatures, the techniques. It's very, very critical that timing is to the second in the kitchen.
Behind.
So the kitchen etiquette and the kitchen vocabulary that you see in here is 100% accurate. If you notice in the scene, like most kitchens, it's very tight. You say behind because people are walking with knives. There's hot oil. People have trays of food. You don't want to be turning into someone. So you've got to be very cognizant of what's going on around you.
5, 7, just keep going, guys. We are almost out of the woods. Let's just keep going.
Is he locked in the walk-in?
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. The locked in the walk-in part, it's happened in my kitchen before. So I'm pretty impressed with how they captured the energy of the opening night. I would rate this a 7 out of 10.
You can handle this? Is it too much for you? I get it. You have a short man's complex. You can barely reach over this table, right?
That was done when I was first starting out in the 90s. That was all the rage. I don't think that many kitchens would be running that way these days. In my experience, it's better to say less. You can do a lot more with a look and a gesture than telling someone that they're no good and they're short.
Why do you hire idiots? Do you like working with idiots? I'll do better. Say yes, chef. Yes, chef.
There are several layers of when you say the word yes, chef. Number one is quite simply saying yes, chef. You have heard what the chef has been saying as far as the order or directing you. Yes, chef is also the term of respect, that when you are a chef, when you call someone another chef, it's a title that's earned. So we have to think about a kitchen at this level, at a fine dining level, is run very much the same way that you would run a military unit. And in France, you would say, oui, chef.
Fire 31, 25, 2 out on 31, chefs. Hands.
The phrasing hands in the kitchen is very common. So in America, hands would mean come to the pass where you plate, which is the table where all the food leaves the kitchen and goes into the dining room. The reaction from the team when the order is placed is purely acknowledgement that they've heard, quite literally, the order of what it is, what table, and what their responsibilities are, because a kitchen is broken up into different sections. So you have a meat, a fish, garde manger, vegetable, pastry, depending on your size of the kitchen. The chef dynamic with the sous chef is maybe a little overdone. I would honestly say this is probably a 6 out of 10.
Ratatouille. It's a peasant dish. Are you sure you want to serve this to Ego?
I love this movie. Absolutely love it. It's sort of the Harry Potter of cooking in a weird way. Do I think ratatouille is a peasant dish? No, not at all. In context, people used to eat truffles, which are a delicacy and very, very, very expensive. Used to eat them like they were potatoes because they were abundant. It might have its roots because the ingredients that are grown are easy to farm and to grow everywhere, but not at all.
Ratatouille?
I have served ratatouille in a fine dining in my restaurants all over the world, absolutely. What qualifies this for haute cuisine? Well, it's two things. You don't normally slice everything. That's the fine dining approach. When you slice everything evenly, like so, and you're baking it on top of the tomato, it cooks evenly so that it tastes even. For the way it's served, where you're taking the ratatouille and you're making a little round, beautiful presentation, that's obviously the artistic part. So yes, it is presented in a fine dining way. So true, so true. The eating of the ratatouille is like that and takes it back to being a kid with mom cooking ratatouille. That is what food is about. It's about memory. I would say that from my point of view, I don't aim to try and take people back to childhood with the food, because everybody's childhood could be good or bad, I don't know. It's more to do with creating a environment and a moment where you can literally switch off the world.
I can't remember the last time I asked a waiter to give my compliments to the chef.
Critics do not normally give compliments to the chef because generally the critic doesn't want to be recognized when they come into the restaurant because they are critiquing you. In most cases, no. We all know and we give the nod and we say good evening, but we don't, no. It's a professional respect. Every child in the world should watch this movie to have the appreciation for food and cooking. It's real, what they're saying. It is, it's 100%. I have to say it's got to be a 10 out of 10 for me. I love Ralph Fiennes. He's like the Voldemort of chefs, quite literally. Yes, you do use tweezers in the kitchen for most things. They're much more elegant than using only your fingers. My dear friend Dominique rented the food for this, and I think it is a really good capture of where they are on an island.
Ancient Greek peasants dipped their stale, measly bread in wine for breakfast.
I think the aspect of pretension with the fine dining, as we saw in the scene there with the bread, honestly, it's all in context. I've been called pretentious billions of times. I don't think I am. I have a particular style and a particular way of doing it. Some people like it, others don't. As a chef, I would say that I think that my duty is to give the guests an experience that will stay with them forever. A memorable experience of joy and of giving something that they didn't know they wanted.
Pickled cucumber melon, milk snow, and charred lace.
Thanks.
Enjoy.
I think the social media aspect of this, with the gentleman taking a photo there, is 100% influential on all dining everywhere in the world today. I guess I'm sort of lucky that I have been in this business pre-Instagram, pre-social media, when you didn't do that, not like today. I would give this a solid 6 out of 10.
Michelin sends its inspectors to restaurants to eat and award stars. 1, 2, 3.
Or none.
The Michelin guide, I would say, because it's been around over 100 years, 1, 2, or 3 star Michelin is the format. I mean, you can be in the guide and not have stars, but the starring guide, it's very sought after.
They always book a table before 7:30. One orders the tasting menu, the other one a la carte. Always.
As far as the criteria of looking at one orders a tasting menu, one orders a la carte, no. They come before 7:30? No. A lot of that stuff is hearsay. Regarding the rating of the Michelin, they're looking for consistency. So they don't come in once and say that's it. So it's definitely to do with is the service, the food, the ambiance, the wine service, the greeting, the goodbye, the bathrooms, is everything to the satisfactory standards and the very high standards to attain the 3 Michelin stars.
Double of everything, 2 of everything. Yes, sir.
In my experience, obviously, of attaining stars in the Michelin Guide, the way Chef Bradley is working in the kitchen, very true to form, for winning the 3-star Michelin, which he's going for. Look, I'm the same way. Michelin is in the house. I'm not standing back and going, go for it, guys. I am leading. I know he worked with a friend of mine in London. He worked with Gordon Ramsay for a little bit to gain the experience of like, what's it like doing it. So I think he did a really good job. I would rate this scene a 9 out of 10. So in terms of the plating technique, it's too much hand. Use a spoon or use tweezers, because then you touch the meat, it gets on your fingers, you touch the plate. So cleanliness is very important when you plate. As far as the look of the food, that is 100% what is in your mind's eye of the chef that is doing it. The schmear that he puts on the plate with the prawns, that's his interpretation of how he wants to present that puree.
This is madness, huh? This is crazy. You didn't go home, did you?
No. Come here.
To work overnight on creation, absolutely. You're doing lunch and dinner during the day. Your kitchen's full of people. You have no time to be creative. So you have an overnight where at least you can have some peace and quiet and you can focus on ideas. So it actually, yes, I've done it more than once, yeah.
Okay. It's molten, see? It's molten, you hole.
Yelling at the critic, I respect that. I've had my run-ins with the critics. I've thrown a few critics out of the restaurant in years gone by. It's subjective. Doesn't mean it's bad, but you know, the critique thing can be a double-edged sword, is what I would say. I would rate this scene a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's pretty realistic, yeah. They did a very good job on this scene. Your environment does obviously influence what comes in here, and then on to the plate for your guests. How and where do I seek inspiration for food dishes? Travel is a big one. Definitely New York has been a huge influence, obviously a melting pot of culture and food from quite literally every country on earth. Seasonality is obviously another big one. What is in winter, what is in summer, completely different. I do the same things in the scene. I like to sketch. Form is very important. In our kitchen, we take a little plasticine and actually mold in physical shape the items of the food to see how it balances on a plate. Picture perfect of exactly how dishes normally go. Like writing an album. You have the tracks that you want and then you have B-sides. Or you have all the other tracks that don't make it onto the actual album. Same thing with food. It's tweaking, it's fine-tuning, it's moving things around. And I don't think we ever, honestly, in my experience, perfect the dish. It's always evolving, always. I would rate this 9 out of 10. I think they captured the essence of a young chef thinking about what voice they want to put to the dish that they want to do, and the beginnings of the process of doing that. Yeah, it's a great scene. I get it, but what are you trying to say to me with this? I mean, you're cooking a piece of meat over charcoal. Okay, barbecue is cooked over charcoal, wood, right? I mean, does that make barbecue not French or you know what I mean? It's just a heat source. That's all it is.
正直カカオはあんまし使った経験なかったんだけど、そこでインスタントコーヒーだ。カカオに通じる苦さは。
The usage of using instant coffee instead of using a normal coffee bean that we would make coffee with, 100% do the same thing. Because there's a lot of astringency, acidity, with bitterness, with a normal coffee bean that you'd use to make an espresso. But using a little bit of instant coffee, freeze-dried coffee, you get all the coffeeness you want, so it doesn't take away from other ingredients on the dish. So they had somebody who knows what they're doing tell them, so it's fantastic, yeah.
主素材とソース、そして付け合わせ。これらを組み合わせて立体的なハーモニーを作り上げるのが。
From my point of view, French cuisine, as far as in the context of what they're showing in the scene here, French cuisine has always been about great sauce work. I think these days you just have a lot more influence from all over the rest of the world that influences French cuisine. So Japanese cuisine influencing French cuisine. It's not that it's changed, I think it's definitely evolved, yes. I wasn't really sure the point exactly what they're trying to get across. I would rate this scene, I think, a nice 7 out of 10.
他的这个定力不错，这动作一定要平稳，否则他这个造型啊就会受到破坏。
He's making a foie gras parfait as a dessert. Perfectly fine, done it before, all good. The cooking technique on the foie gras, no way. That's a foie gras parfait, you don't cook it in that way that he's doing it. You would use a different mold, you would fill the water up to just before it covers it so it's an even heat. You don't pour ice cubes over it to cool it down. I've had people outside my restaurant protesting that I'm using foie gras, and they've done it, to a lot of other restaurants, yeah. If you look at the historical aspect of it, the Egyptians were making foie gras thousands and thousands of years ago. They feed the geese on figs. So this is nothing that's new. I mean, the plating style on this is obviously Western style. Foie gras, the caramels. I know many people, they're great at cooking. You ask them to plate, it's a gobbledygook mess. It's definitely two different skill sets that, you have to learn. I'll be honest with you, because I wouldn't want to eat that. I'm going to rate this a 4 out of 10. I love the beginning of the scene here. Everyone's making an omelette. That's one of the tests that we always give to the young cooks. I had to do when I was a kid. I started at 15 when I started in the kitchen. It's not about how good you can cook the omelette. It's about watching what sensibility do you have. Is it really too hot? Is it not hot enough? How are you working? Do you understand the building blocks? It's a really good one to kind of get a quick idea of someone's hand skill before you get to help them develop.
Well done, Madame Shield.
Julia, I think, pretty much understood what was needed, and everyone else seemed to be running behind her, trying to catch up. She was a very gifted lady who I actually had the pleasure of meeting when I first came to America. And I can be honest, I didn't know who she was, because I'm British and she was American, and I'm like, she was 6 foot tall. Who is this 6 foot tall lady that we cook for? And she was so lovely.
By 7:30 I'm in class, in my apron, pigeons who make pastry with so much butter.
No, I didn't go to culinary school. So I'm not sure, because if what she's doing at culinary school at the Cordon Bleu would be right, wearing chef whites, was wearing hair, it's more of a sort of a traditional uniform of the kitchen. I think obviously times have changed a little bit. It's not a rule of thumb that you have to wear. I mean, it's how you cook and how you act. I would rate this scene a really great 7 out of 10. The style of cooking that they're doing here was very sort of set in the early 2000s. That was very popular at that time. There was a restaurant called El Bouilly out of Rosas, Ferran Adrià, who pioneered a lot of the spherification technique, a lot of the cooking with nitrogen. We're using it as a technique to freeze, and freeze extremely rapidly. So you don't have any crystals that form with any of the water, with anything that you're freezing. So when you defrost it, it's exactly the same as when you froze it.
This was a surprising triumph.
Unexpected ways, with a marinade of tamarind.
You can see the gentleman in there is wearing a face shield, because if it splashes in your eye, you don't have an eye anymore. So should you be using liquid nitrogen at home? No, don't do it. Liquid nitrogen is 300 plus degrees negative. You wouldn't be doing this at home. You know, family supper of like, let's freeze some spaghetti. I think it's cute. I don't think it's really indicative of being a restaurant exactly. I think it's more playing with food rather than, you know, guest experience. So I would rate this clip a 6 out of 10. I think my favorite fine dining movie would be The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, because it is decadence, but in the most artful, insane way. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click on the next video to serve yourself another.